Hey guys, I wanted to share with you a objection handling framework that I've been using for the past decade that I have shared with hundreds of students and dozens of solar companies that I've coached and consulted with that's had an extreme level of value that's been able to be provided to them, and I wanted to give that to you guys here inside of this community. So everybody inside of here comes in and puts out objections, and there's tons of great people in here that are able to handle those objections and give you the right feedback to be able to give your customers in that process. However, that handling of the objection is actually the third step in the framework that I use to be able to handle any objection. So the third step of handling the objection is going to be unique in every situation based on the objection itself. However, there is a framework, a four-step process that can be used on every single objection that can allow you to effectively handle these objections. One of the biggest mistakes that I see sales reps make, and this is for brand new sales reps, and you also see it in veteran guys who have been doing this forever, is that when the objection comes up, they simply handle the objection right away. So somebody says, I need to think about it. They go to whatever their objection handling is directly on that. Well, what is it you need to think about? Or, I understand you need to think about it, but, right? Or, hey, we think solar panels are ugly, right? Hey, I understand, but. And so, but we have a sleek black on black panel that sits low to the roof, whatever it is, right? So people are always going directly to handling the objection. And if you understand human psychology, then you would understand that when somebody gives you an objection, the worst thing that you can do is immediately handle that objection, because now you've created a tennis match between you and the homeowner, and you're still on the opposite side of them, and you're just going back and forth with whoever can either provide a better objection or handle a better objection. And it's great to have objection mastering skills, and it's great to have all of these handling parts in your tool belt to be able to handle those when they come up, to be able to know what you're going to say when somebody says, we need other quotes, or we need to think about it, we need to pray about it, we don't like the looks of them, we don't want holes in the roof, what about our insurance, right? So when all these things come up, it's great to have all of those pieces of information to know how to handle that specific objection. But if you'll put that into this framework, I can assure you that it'll be much more effective in your process. So number one is to acknowledge and understand the objection. And all you're going to do during this step is to literally repeat the words back to the homeowner of exactly what their objection was. Now, this is not mirroring or NLP style training. It does relate to that somewhat, but really what you're doing is when people speak, they want to know that they're heard. So you can immediately create trust by letting someone know that you're listening to them. And how better to let somebody know you're listening to them than to repeat back to them exactly what they just said. So when somebody says, hey, we think solar panels are ugly, hey, I understand. You think solar panels are ugly. You don't want to junk up your roof with a bunch of ugly solar panels, right? So you're just acknowledging and understanding what they said by repeating it back to them. The next step is to agree with them. So regardless of what they say, you're always going to agree with them and get on the same side as them. What this does is this validates their concern. A lot of people will move quickly, right, to handling the objection because in your mind as a sales rep, as a solar sales rep, you know better. You know that's not really a big issue. You know that maybe it's the homeowners association, maybe it's the tier 2 insurance they need in some states, maybe it's the net metering, maybe it's talking to their accountant, whatever it is, like that it's not a real problem or a real obstacle to get the sale, but the customer doesn't know that. So you can't treat them and just go straight to handling it as if their concern doesn't matter. Because if people don't feel validated, and if they don't feel understood, and if they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, whatever you're about to say is not really going to have any bearing on it, right? So you can give the perfect handling to the objection, but what you're going to notice is either it doesn't work or it just brings up another objection. And so what's happening is you're playing tennis with them and you're not making them feel understood, making them feel heard, making them validated. So when you agree with them, that's going to validate whatever their concern is. So somebody says, hey, we don't want solar panel, and I'm using this example because it's not a super common one, so just to skip past the normal common objections. Hey, we think solar panels are ugly, right? Hey, completely understand. You guys think solar panels are ugly. You don't want to junk up this roof, right? Maybe it's a new home. They just built the home. You don't want to junk up this roof on your brand new home that you just built. Completely understand, right? Then you're going to agree with them. Actually, Bob, if I were in your position, I would probably feel the exact same way. If I had just built this beautiful home, the last thing in the world I'd want to do is come junk it up with a bunch of ugly solar panels. Okay? Now, you've agreed with them. Now you're on the same side as them. Then step 3 is to handle the objection. That's where you're doing what you'll find tons of great experts in this group that are helping you handle the objection. So you have all these handles or all these rebuttals or all these solutions to their problem or to their objection. You have the answers, right? But that's step 3. So step 3 is to really provide new information. So it's to provide them with information they didn't have. So, hey, Jake, we think solar panels are ugly. I completely understand you guys think solar panels are ugly. You don't want to junk up your roof with a bunch of ugly solar panels. As a matter of fact, if I were in your position, I would probably feel the exact same way. The last thing in the world I'd want to do after building such a beautiful home is come junk it up with a bunch of ugly solar panels, right? And then provide new information. However, what I can assure you is that you're not going to get the solar panels like you've seen on some houses probably around the neighborhood that are the big blue panels with the goofy looking frames all around them that stick out like a sore thumb. We actually provide a black on black panel that sits super low to the roof, not going to have the big ugly grids on it, actually looks super, super clean on the roof. Okay, now you provided the new information. The next step, the most important step, is to move forward. So what you did is you addressed their concern, you validated their concern. By providing new information, you've now let them know that concern is no longer valid, right? So you validated first, then you invalidated. Now you're moving forward as if it is handled. So now you're what we call assuming the sale, right? Or an assumptive close. You're just moving into whatever the next step is in wherever you were at in your process. So let's say, for example, we had already gone through everything. We had talked about the project, talked about everything. We were about to do, let's just say, a pre-approval, okay? Now, I always pre-approve before I give numbers because pre-approved paper is much easier to sell. That's a topic for another discussion. But let's say we're about to do a pre-approval, and I said, hey, let me get a copy of your driver's license so I can get you approved and get your exact terms and rates and numbers for you. Okay. Now, if this objection comes up at this point, well, to be honest, Jake, like everything looks good, the savings, we like everything, but we just, honestly, we just built this home and we think solar panels are ugly. We don't want to junk up the roof with a bunch of solar panels. Completely understand. You guys think solar panels are ugly. You don't want to junk up the roof with a bunch of ugly solar panels. If I were in your position, I would feel the exact same way. As a matter of fact, if I spent all this money building this beautiful home, the last thing in the world I'd want to do is junk it up with a bunch of ugly solar panels. However, what I can let you know is that this solar system is not going to look like a lot of the ones that you've seen around the area that are the big goofy looking blue panels that stick out like a sore thumb with the aluminum cases all around them. This is a black on black system, sits super low to the roof. It's actually very aesthetically pleasing. They actually look super sick on the roof. Now, I just need to go grab a copy of your driver's license so I can go ahead and get that pre-approval for you. And you're moving on to the next part of the process. What you're doing is because you were on the same side as them, because they were validated, right? And now you've seen from their perspective, and now you provided the new information. Now you've shifted your perspective and their perspective, and now you're moving forward in that new perspective, and they will follow along. So use this as your framework for handling any type of objection that comes up. Again, tons and tons of great information inside of this group on how to handle the objection. So fill up your tool belt with all of these ways that you can handle the objection, but start using this framework. Acknowledge, understand, repeat that back to them. Okay. Number 2, agree with them. If I were in your position, I'd feel the same way. 3, handle by providing new information. And 4, move forward as if it is already handled and move on to the next step of your process. So hope you guys have a great 2024 of selling solar. Really hope this provides some value to you guys. feel free to leave some comments or some feedback if you guys go out and use this in the field. This can be used during your closing calls. This can be used during discovery calls on virtual. This can be used during door knocking. Really, anytime objections are coming up, you can utilize this 4-step process to handle objections in a way that works with human psychology and works with making people feel understood, validated, shifting their perception, and then moving forward to get your close, rather than just being combative and playing tennis with the homeowner, going back and forth trying to win a conversation, when in all reality, rather than pushing back and forth against people, you can pull them to you by creating magnetism, by simply operating with human psychology. So, happy selling.